So, grow your portfolio, constantly buy more, which I did for many years, or start to be a contrarian and pay down debt by either doing a bunch of buy to sell, paying it down with your rent, or selling off some of your portfolio. It's an interesting question, isn't it? And it's one I've been pondering over. Recently, I've been publishing some of my goals, which are to pay off houses. I've got 2 that are fully paid off, and I have a large portfolio, so I'm working quite hard to pay off the next ones. I'm like, you're next. And I've had a lot of questions from you guys, like, why would you do that? Aren't we taught to always extend ourselves, go to high loan to value and buy more and more and more? And there is no right or wrong answer. So I'm just going to tell you what I think, and also what I think is being, cemented in by a book I've recently read called Unscripted by MJ DeMarco. Really interesting book. So if you're anything like me and you're into the aspect of growing a portfolio, your whole focus here is about buying, I'm going to pick my water up, buying, to a degree stretching yourself. So I always went for kind of 75% loan to value. I even a couple of times did an 85% loan to value, and didn't sleep very well, but it helped me grow and acquire the assets rather rapidly. As many of you know, I also did a lot of private borrowing. So again, I'm in Seville, by the way. There's a tram. I'm in the middle of Seville. It helped me grow the assets really strongly. So it's what people nominally call good debt, as in it is. I'm not using it for consumerism. I'm not using it for fancy stuff like my jewelry or whatever, or fancy cars. I'm using it to buy assets which then give great yields and bring income. However, it's still debt. And for 10 plus years, that was absolutely the trajectory that I was on, which was go as fast as you possibly could, expand and extend to a degree, but I always stress tested my portfolio to 13% because if anything went wrong, you got to be in a position that you're not in trouble with the bank. And I also always bought discounted so that I could refinance and pull the majority of my cash back out. And again, mainly if anything went wrong, particularly with private investors, I would be able to refund them their investment. I also, just for safety's sake, did a very strong buy to sell strategy. Again, it was largely driven by, well, if anything went wrong with my private borrowing, I would, instead of just relying on refinancing, what if anything went wrong? I started just after the 2008 recession, so we saw what could go wrong. I could also do buy to sell, and that would pay people back. So there was always like a plan A, plan B, plan C. Plan A would be the properties themselves could give great yield and great profit. Plan B would be I bought them discounted, so I should be able to refinance and pull either all or most of the cash back out. And plan C being I also was running a buy to sell strategy, which should pull the cash back out. But the whole mental thought process was extend yourself to the tune of millions of pounds in mortgage debt, theoretically good debt, that's what it's nominally called, and buy millions more pounds of property, which I did. And listen, guys, I'm 100% grateful for doing that. But I don't think that's the end goal. I think that is an interim step which was necessary for somebody like me, head of household, kitchen table startup. My children were kind of just, when I started, they were about 10 and 12. Driven by the need for security. Oh, by the way, there's some construction over there, bloomin' property developers. Oh, and look, do you like the fountain? Isn't that beautiful? And I think that it's very easy after a decade of being in that kind of mentality to keep going. And for about the last 4 years, I've been saying to myself, when is enough enough? Well, actually, 6 years ago, I started saying that to myself, when is enough enough? I love listening to the Spanish. When is enough enough? And then about 3 or so years ago, I stopped buying because another house won't make any difference to my life at the moment. And I started to pursue a route of pay down. But it was more from gut. It wasn't from a well thought out strategy, apart from I know I'm going to be paying down. I like saving the fact of fees and interest cost. But this is a gut feel. And it's kind of just been compounded by reading MJ DeMarco book, Unscripted. I'm just currently reading his other book, which is, I think it's Millionaire Fastlane. And he really talks about people who, no matter whether you've got loads of money or very limited amount of money, if your money habit is you always spend what you've got, you're never going to be wealthy, and you're never going to have that strong pot which will always be there to provide for you. And as much as I'd love to like read that book and go, hey honey, I'm there already, it really struck home. Interesting, isn't it? When you're like, no, I've kind of like theoretically made it, and then you're like, oh, damn. It seems you have a point. And I just found it really interesting. It's over, like, I have no credit card debt, I have no consumer debt at all. I don't, if I buy a car, I buy it cash. I don't do anything except for mortgage debt. So, Madam Good Debt here, it still really struck home. I was like, hang on a minute here. I went through a process which I believe was really necessary to extend enormously, but with some safety nets as described, buying discounted, running a buy to sell strategy at the same time, high yielding properties, stress testing to 13%, if interest rate went to 13%. But nonetheless, the whole mentality was extend, theoretically good debt. And that only takes you so far. Now, I could live on my properties as is. They're quite a decent low loan to value already. I've got no complaints here. But I love the fact that my unthought out, unsolidified thinking about paying down debt now matches MJ DeMarco's book Unscripted, which I think is a must read for you guys, which is about, it goes almost one step further than Rich Dad Poor Dad. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is that quadrant, isn't it, of employed, self-employed, business owner, employed, self-employed, business owner, and an asset owner. And MJ DeMarco goes one step further and says, yeah, fine to have assets, but ultimately you want cash in the bank, because that is true almost financial freedom, because that cash can then yield you revenue. So he talks about, well, if you had 10 million quid in the bank, which for most of us is like, what? But it's possible, guys. We did 45 million quid's worth of property sourced for 30 million quid in less than 5 years. That's a lot of profit in those properties. So the thing is possible. And he talks about that being the ultimate goal for wealth, because, properties are great and I love properties, but I never even considered the idea of cash in the bank. Now, some of you be like, duh, Suze. But some of you may be kind of scripted the way I've been scripted. Okay, not a bad debt, as in consumerism and keeping up with the Joneses and blah, blah, blah. Because even when I was a speaker, even when I was already clearly a multimillionaire in my balance sheet, I still used to have a 400 quid car that was like the bumper was tied on with string. And I would go and do talks. And even I, who really doesn't care that much about appearances, even I eventually decided to no longer park it in the car park. I'd park it round the corner, because I thought, whilst I'm utterly telling the truth and everything we've done, and I really know my stuff property wise inside out, and I hope these guys really benefit from my talk at this property event, if they see me getting out of this car, they're just going to be like, nah. So even I eventually gave into some peer pressure and bought myself a lovely little, very nice Mini Cooper. But so even though I can argue, Suze, you don't do any bad debt, I do think that MJ DeMarco's got a real point about changing your money mindset. And that's going to be interesting, because my money mindset has always been, got money, buy house, got money, buy house, got money, buy house. And now my money mindset, although you could argue strongly it's a sensible one, is got money, pay house off, got money, pay house off. My money mindset has never yet been, got money, keep it. And that's a massive change in a mindset, isn't it? And one I'm sure I'll probably struggle with, because for me, like, got money, pay off debt at the moment, like, or got money, renovate houses, or got money, turn houses into flats, or got money, go on holiday. So I just think it's worth considering, definitely worth reading that book, Unscripted, MJ DeMarco, and definitely worth considering, because I get a lot of questions like, Suze, why are you paying off houses? Aren't we taught to expand, to think actually there's one step beyond Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is, you've bought assets, now they pay you. The next step is true freedom from, I suppose, the system, such as he calls it, which is, I suppose, pure cash in the bank, or I might turn it into unencumbered properties, which is, they're not liquid, but they're unencumbered. Interesting, isn't it? Just when you think you get to a certain perch in the mountain, you realise there's another little part of the hill to climb that will improve the quality of your life, which is why we're doing property. So, if you're starting out, please don't be put off by this. Like, oh, Suze, I'll never get there. Honey, you will. I was a technical, because I was still skint, multimillionaire within 3.5 years. You absolutely can, will, should. If you put your work into it, and if you focus, and if you get good guidance, and if you measure your delivery, property can make this thing happen really quickly. But I think it's also interesting, even if you're watching this and maybe haven't even started yet in property, to appreciate that the end result is not necessarily a property portfolio with a high loan to value. The end result may be a property portfolio with a very low loan to value, completely paid off, maybe even turned back into cash, which is like, whoa, a way step too far for me so far. Because what's your goal and what's your why? And your why may be to house hundreds of people. Your why may be to employ a whole bunch of people. And I like working with my team. Or your why may be financial freedom. And therefore, what part of that equation contributes to your real why before you get caught up in the process? Interesting. A good book for a holiday. Have a good day and good luck to you in property.